One, it's we're live. This is the Tragedy+Time live stream show. This is episode 5. It's Thursday, July 1st. It's my birthday. And here on the show today, we have Jared. Now, how do you pronounce your name? Is it Troth? Or is there
it's Troth? Troth is for pigs. Troths are for cool people named Jared.
Like, I knew I would get that wrong.
Everyone does. Don't worry about it.
If I can go this entire broadcast without calling you JC, I think that will be a win for me personally.
Don't worry about it. I have so many names. I feel like it doesn't end. It's just a roulette. Don't worry. Pick one.
You do have so many names. I think that's kind of like the interesting thing that I wanted to talk to you about tonight is the aspect of you have many names because they all come out in different creative pursuits. Like you have different slices of your of who you are that come out in different ways. Like, can you explain just number one, like what are all your different monikers and for your different forms of art, and like why you have the drive to name them so and that sort of thing? I'm very interested by this idea.
You know, it's a lot like Tim Curry. What movie you know him from says a lot about yourself, you know, and I think what name you call me says a lot about who you are. I have a lot of names. It does, you know, and I think I have a lot of names. You know, if you met me while I was stripping, you're going to think my name is Landon, you know. Mm-hmm. That's just kind of how it works. When you met me doing stand-up, I was a character and you thought I was JC, you know. Not that you thought I was. That's what I told everyone, so I guess it's fair. But, and it's not like any of those monikers are like, this is my true self, this is my untrue self. It's just dials that I adjust. You know, this is me with the sexuality turned up. This is me being a little bit dumber or ditzier or whatever. The name Invot is just kind of something that I use to describe kind of my creative self. I feel like that's whenever I want to do something where I feel like it's something that's kind of beyond who I am. And it's more like, this is a product that I'm bringing out. Like my face doesn't matter here. You know, that's Invot. So
come on, now your face matters. You've got you've got great face, but like,
you know, I wanna. There are a lot of times where I feel like I'm not sure if people are nice to me because I smile at them and they think I'm cute or whatever. So I try to make sure that like Invot is always kind of this robot. You know, whatever is behind the Invot brand isn't necessarily human. I try to make that a thing. So I know that sounds kind of odd, but that's always been my approach to it. Is Invot is kind of just this this creative nebulous thing instead of my body, who I am. You know, what you see right now.
Well, to bring the audience up to speed, let's like introduce who is Jared? Like, where are you from? What do you do? That sort of thing. Like, if give us your quick elevator pitch about who you are and then we'll rapidly depart from it.
Oh, I love that. No, I guess, how do you do that? I mean, I'm a creative person. My whole life I've been either like singing or dancing or doing something, you know. I love to perform. That's what I do. But it's one of those things where I feel like because of everything that I've been through, that's just how I cope. I know that other people have much more delicious coping methods, you know. I think mine is, it can be, people always say like stand-up is the heroine of performing art. And I can't disagree. I think that I fall into a lot of vice when it comes to performing art, be it, I think burlesque is something that can consume you. I think music can consume you. All of it can. It can really hurt if you let it. And I definitely kind of lean into that. I don't know. I enjoy self-destruction sometimes. It feels good. It feels good.
I love that you brought that up because I do think that there is a certain amount of like embracing self-destruction at certain times. And we all kind of have this debate, like, is it all right? Is it okay? Is it something that is good? Like sometimes I think of like it as stripping away parts that probably need to be stripped away. It is a very interesting topic. I think we could have an entire show just on like what self-destruction is and kind of outlining the borders of different elements of it. I know for me that for all of the things that I do performatively, that the voice and message of what I want to communicate relates a lot to. I have some, I feel like a sincere message that connects to who I am. So I kind of played around with, should I have a stage name, should I not, and then I ended up just sticking with Tyson. But I can say that from like a personal standpoint, like my psyche, as I look at myself, that I will split it up in and of itself. In fact, one of the elements, the longest time in my life, I I couldn't find a part of me to love. I
Really?
didn't love myself. And it was just here now a couple of years ago where I stumbled upon a, like a persona within myself that I call Parker's dad. I love Parker's dad. I love Parker's dad a great deal. I think like he is the person that I want to be. Now I know that that person is also me,
Yeah.
but like it is easier for me to make that leap to like just trying to like love that one part. It's I know that someday I will need to like make an amalgam of who I am and like pull myself all back together with all my different parts and like really love myself for who I am. But right now I love Parker's dad, and like the more things that he kind of steps forward in, and the more things that like he lets like the silliness of who he really is like bleed into my other personas, of like kind of the other parts of who I am. It's like this avenue or this bridge into like me being more accepting of myself, being more loving of myself. But I definitely like the idea of like compartmentalizing certain things in our own personas, in our own psyches, of like and using it for a vehicle to to bring an element or a voice or an artistry or content or creativity to the forefront. Like that does resonate.
Mm-hmm.
So like I've always been mystified by this aspect of you. It's one of the details that when I talk about you to others, I always bring up. I'm like, I call him JC Brady because that's how I met him.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting that that's how what you led with was that statement.
Yeah.
You know, because it's almost verbatim words that I've said that you didn't know that I said that about you, but you knew that people say that about you.
What was, it's been so long. Do you remember how we met? Because I know it
I do.
was someplace, but what's the story behind that? I don't
Well,
remember the night.
Well,
Was I drunk?
Well, maybe you like. Well, JC Brady is a pretty lively character. It's hard to tell.
He's on.
Like JC Brady is on.
Yeah,
and he's always
all
on.
the time.
Like whether
Yeah.
he's on stage or whether he's off stage, he's definitely on. So like, I mean, I knew that you had a drink, but I don't know if you were drunk by any means. But I do know, like, I met you. It was at an open mic at the Rigby, and then we went to Ian's Pizza for the second open mic of the night, or third, what have you. And we just I bumped into you a couple times, and I kind of knew who you are, and like there was some acquaintances made, but I didn't think I really like started to meet you or get to know you until I showed up at one of the Sunday night karaoke's that the comics would go to at the Comeback Inn. And I sat next to you because, like, honestly, I was the new kid in the scene, and you were welcoming.
Yeah,
and you spoke to me, and then one of the things that we kind of connected on is I started, talking about my own like elements of sadness, because like I had kind of when I first started, I would do jokes that were just me getting on stage saying very sad things that were kind of formatted like premises, but didn't really have punchlines. But I did have kind of like a narrative style, and you pulled me aside. He's like, "Hey, have you ever watched Mike Birbiglia?"
I remember this now. Yeah.
And you're like, "I think that you would like his stuff. You should check him out." And I did, and it kind of changed what I thought of as far as the art form, because he does blend storytelling with stand-up very expertly. It's kind of hard to say what he really is. Is he a stand-up or is he a storyteller?
Well, does it have to be separate things? I think that's the question to ask ourselves. But I think the big thing, I remember now I can remember some of our earlier times when we were getting to know each other. And, baby comics, it's always interesting to see baby comics because a lot of them fall into the same trap of treating an open mic like therapy, you know? And I think with you, you're such a bleeding heart where it's hard for you to not like kind of look back and be like, wait a minute, there's a room full of people here and they can hear everything I'm saying, you know? And I think when you first started out, there was such a rawness to everything. I think you freaked a lot of people out, which was what I loved about you. Because you know me, I am a very abrasive person. I love anyone who's out of their goddamn mind. And I knew that the first time I heard you speak, I was like, okay, this guy has something to say, and he's really saying it. You were a very raw comic. But I think Mike Birbiglia, what he's able to do is he's able to frame very raw and real emotion in a way that's very digestible for people, where it's almost like they're tricked into hearing something real. You know, it's like a realness sandwich. Here's something silly, here's something real, and here's something silly again. You know, and you don't realize that you just learned something because you're giggling, you know, about the human condition and how difficult it can be to be subject to that, you know. And I think you do the same thing. You know, I think you point out kind of the tragedy of existence, you know, and how I don't know how we.
Well, that's my goal. Like that's my goal. I mean, I do, and I think that you're dead on right in the fact that like when I did start, like it was raw, and I think it was very uncomfortable for a lot of people. Like I was there because I needed to be there because I needed to laugh at the jokes that I was trying to tell. I wasn't a stand-up yet. I didn't really know what I was doing, but like that's also kind of stuck with me in not that great a way because like people kind of know he's the guy who's going to make you feel uncomfortable. So maybe we don't want to get all that close to him, but you know, in some regards I do divide an audience, but that's okay because the people who need to hear what I have to say, they need to see that side of it. Like I'm not for all audiences, but that's also all right. That's like I need to embrace that element.
I don't think you're dividing audiences as much as you're sifting them. You know, I think it's the wheat from the chaff. You're finding people who want to hear what you have to say. And I think that's important to find your audience and know your audience. Because, I think, you know, Madison is a bunch of drunk college kids and you can cater to that, but that's only going to elevate you so high. You're going to be stuck in this realm of dick jokes, you know, because that's what makes college students laugh. And that's kind of the blessing of the curse of being where you're at. You know, we always talk about how Comedy on Stage, which is one of the greatest comedy clubs ever. I mean, you can't dispute that. But we always joke it's like God mode because they'll laugh at fucking anything, you know?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
It's a bunch of college students and they're just fucking stupid. And I mean, you can give them that. It's really easy to get caught in that trap because it's lazy and being lazy is fun. But I think the work of discovering who you are and what your voice and what your message is as a comic is much more rewarding ultimately than just going in there and being like, I'm in it for the lulz. You know, I'm going to feel the audience for the Wednesday night open mic at Comedy at State. That won't get you anywhere. You know, it really won't. But I think the thing that's so difficult about stand-up is everyone in the room, like it you know, I'm saying it's okay that you're dividing audiences basically, but we all know we don't feel that way when it's happening. When there's like one person who kind of crosses their arms, you know, it's really hard not to take that personally. Like, why is that woman in the third row not liking my joke about my suicide attempt? Why does that bother her? You know? And you like lay in bed and think about it. And I think that's what's so painful about stand-up is that it's always so vulnerable and it's always like, I didn't knock it out of the park for everybody, so I just don't feel good. There's so many times where you walk off the stage. I mean, there are those times that you remember that you're like, I'm a god walking off the stage. I killed it. But there's so many other times you're like, man, I really fudged that one joke. And you think about it over and over and over. And it's so insane and painful. And that's something, I mean, this way madness lies. At least for me, I had to step away from it for a long, long time. I haven't been on stage since I moved to Chicago doing stand-up.
Yeah, and I think that like your experience is, it resonates with a lot of people in the aspect of like it. it is very easy to lock in on who isn't laughing and what opportunities you're not getting to be booked in, and chasing, like, because making a group of people laugh, like, you are exerting like a psychological power over them in some ways, because they're not, yes, they're there to laugh, but you're making them laugh, like you're causing it to happen. And there is that feeling of like it is, there is a high to that energy, and it is very easy to get caught up chasing laughs. And
Yeah.
I think we've all done it, and I think we will all do it again, because it's very easy to get caught up in. But a lot of the times when I get down about like, oh, I didn't get that laugh, or I'm not getting this audience, that it is appropriate for me to take a step back and say, Tyson, you started this because you had something you wanted to say, and are you really sticking to the things that you want to say? Are you opening the types of conversations that you want to open? Because quite frankly, one of the powers of comedy is that it can introduce topics or ideas, like the way that you were talking about with Babiglia, of introducing people to thoughts or ideas that maybe they didn't have before, in a very like innocuous way, because they're laughing and we're all having a good time. And it's very easy to say, well, this is just a joke, it's okay. But like, you can start to create a situation where you can have some sort of discourse on a topic that is very difficult to bring up otherwise.
Yes.
And it's one of those, the powers of, the spoken word, stand up being very, I think, one of the most powerful methods in that. But like, whether it be storytelling or, what have you, of connecting to people, and trying to like open up an idea. Like, so for instance, like when I do my one-man show, like there is a topic that I am very specifically trying to like bring across. I don't say it during the show because I am trying to do that kind of like, I'm trying to hide it. Like, I'm talking to people about like, well, quite honestly, I'm talking to people about like toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
But like, I don't say that because the people who need to hear this type of message and kind of start learning from some of my experiences, if they hear those words, they immediately are turned off to the entire message. So if I introduce things with like a joke or whatever and start kind of moving the needle, that's what I'm here for. But like, what I want to bring us back to now is like Invot, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the creative pursuit that's like the forefront for you now.
Yeah. I think there's something about, I feel like I have to talk about what's stifling me right now before I can really talk about what I'm really doing. Because I feel like I'm trying to talk so much about the human experience. And specifically, I'm trying to write an entire record about heartbreak, and kind of not the heartbreak per se, but the process that happens afterwards. The restoration of that. I always try to say heartbreak is fabulous. And I think that there's something about rebuilding yourself from the ground up, because it's kind of like when you give your heart away, you can't take it back. You have to grow a new one. And that is such an amazing process. I feel like pain and trauma and suffering is something that we have to learn how to celebrate. And we have to learn how to work our way through it and become new people through it, or else we just die. I think about right now, something that I'm really struggling with is the concept, I guess they call it non-events, which is this idea of something that you want to happen that isn't happening. It's called a non-event. You've planned it. I think it was John Lennon who said that life is what happens when you're busy making plans. And there's so many times where I feel like I have decided this is what I'm going to do. This is the plan. This is how I'm going to course my way forward. And then I just get struck down, and all these unexpected things start to happen to me where just recently, I started recording. I recorded one song for this album that I'm working on. Right now, I'm just going to release a single called Severance and I. The reason I'm calling it Severance and I is because it's about a breakup between me and someone whose last name was Severance. So it just kind of serves as like a double entendre. And I was able to record that. And then I had 3 other songs that I'm going to include and do a EP called the Severance EP. And that kind of focuses on just my relationship with him. But after that, I plan to do another, like a full album. I'm going to release more songs that are more about the healing process. And I'm going to call it The Kick Inside is what the name of the album will be. And I have already recorded, well, I fully recorded 1 song, I'll say. Like that's done. But the other 3, right during the recording process, I got this hideous cold. It wasn't COVID or anything like that, but I lost my voice while I was supposed to record. So I had to like seriously consider, what am I supposed to do? Because I had a plan. Like I had a lot of things riding on me getting this out of the way at a certain time. I had all these deadlines. I had all these people I was supposed to talk to, you know, about getting this music heard and getting shows started. And I'm sick. I could barely speak, you know. And I think life has an interesting way of fucking us over, but also kind of showing us that, like, even though you're not doing the thing you want to do, you're still so many things are available to you. It's like going to Disneyland and the teacups are broken, so you just go home. You know, the absurdity of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a nice analogy.
There's so many things, especially as a creative person who has so many outlets. Like, yeah, I may have lost my voice, but, you know, I still have, you know, my ability to dance or perform in some other way. I still can work on the music. I can still work on the lyrics or the costuming or whatever. You know, being a performer, there's so many little pieces, you know. So I really had to recalibrate and be like, I can't sing right now. And that's the one thing I really want to be doing. But there are still other things that I can do. And I have to find a way not just to wallow and be angry that I'm sick. Because I'm me and I'm an asshole, especially to myself. I think being creative means having a really high standard and trying to hold yourself to it. It makes you crazy, you know, because you want everything to be perfect, you know? And I think, like, I started to fall into this self-doubt. Like, can I even sing? Can I even do this? Does anyone even like what I'm doing? Does anyone care about my message? And self-doubt is like the #1 enemy of the creative process. You know, when you start thinking, this isn't right, you know, this is all a waste of time. That's death, you know? And I was just thinking, if I can't record these vocals and if they don't sound amazing, if I don't step out of this sounding like Sam Smith, I might as well just slip my wrists. You know, I had this mentality where I was so mad at myself because I'd turn on my microphone. I have one just like yours, actually. I would turn on my microphone and I would spend hours singing just like 2 lines of a song, just 2 lines. And I would literally I would pinch myself, and I was punishing myself. I was pulling my hair because I was so mad at myself that I couldn't get it right, but I was wickedly ill. I mean, I should have been laying in bed. And what happened was I got sick for even longer. You know, I just got past it a couple days ago, and I got sick like last month. So it's just, it's ridiculous how insane we get over the creative process. You know,
that's something I want to bring up as well here is, like, you have this drive to create. It is, if anyone knows you for any length of time, it becomes very apparent that part of Jared's personality is this drive to create in some channel, one or another. Can you speak about that drive? Like I know I have a drive to create, and I think that there's even times where it is difficult for me to even explain it to someone else. Like, I want to hear what you have to say, and maybe it'll help me find the words for how I can explain it for myself. It's one of those things that is very, very difficult to explain.
I think, you know, there's a saying, Picasso said this, where it's like, a lot of people ask why, but you have to see what's possible and then ask why not. And I think that there's a lot of times as a creative person where I begin to imagine something that just doesn't exist, you know, and it's something that needs to be said or experienced or felt, and it's not there for other people. It's not available. But either it's something that I had to walk through, or it's something I'm bracing myself for, or it's something that I feel like needs to be explored or celebrated. And right now I'm in a place where it's so funny because one of the songs that I wrote, it's called Still. And the chorus is just like, I still love you without you loving me. That's the whole, that surmises the whole thing. And yeah, it's kind of a silly pop song, but when I wrote it, I just felt like this needs to exist. That was really what it was, is that I discovered something out of the ether. I pulled this amalgamation of words and sound, and I just felt like this needs to be available for people. And I didn't really care how it got out there. And I had a friend, her name is Jackie Reese, who we did choir together back when I was in college. And she never stopped singing, but she's one of those people who, you go to like a karaoke lounge, and you hear that one girl who like works in finance, and you are just like distraught after hearing her because her voice is just that good. Like it just annihilates you emotionally. And she's one of those people. But I mean, like, she's a wife, she has a life, she does her own thing. And I mean, she's not the kind of person who would go out there and want to be some, diva superstar. So there's kind of this hidden gem that I had access to. And I said, Jackie, sing this song for me. And I gave her like kind of a boiled version, and she sang it. And she gave me the lyrics back, and she's like, they're not that great, but, my voice cracked here or whatever. And I heard it and I cried, because I was just like, this is a song that I've been struggling with for like a month to sing. And she sang it in a couple days, was her turnaround, better than I could ever sing it. And I just realized, like, it exists. It's here now. This is the summation of what it ought to be. This is the reality of this song right in front of me. This is what my heart bled out, and it exists now. It's real now. And that as a creative person is why we create, is because we want these things that exist in the ether of our hearts and our minds to materialize. And I think when you have such high standards, it becomes a really difficult thing to do. But when it happens, it's like, this is why I'm here. This is what I came here to do, is leave something behind. I think about all these people who, they go about and they live their lives and they just kind of consume. I feel like I'm either consuming or I'm creating. And I feel like if I'm going to do anything good for the world, I can't just consume. I have to create. I have to build something. I have to leave some sort of imprint on this universe and have it mean something. I want to be part of that discussion, that this grandiose thing that is humankind. I want to contribute. And I think that's why I'm creative, is because I want there to be a thing. There ought to be things,
I agree with you. Like, I'll definitely say that, like, I'm glad that I phrased it when I asked the question. I'm glad I phrased it the way that I did. And it's like, maybe you can shed light on it and it'll help me have words for my own process. And lo and behold, it did. Like, there are things that, I mean, like, let's face it, there are side effects to being creative. Like, there are therapeutic aspects to it that, that are nice, but I feel like doing the process for the side effects isn't, like, that's not really the juice. That's not worth the squeeze. Like, the stuff that's really worth the squeeze is that element, that belief that, like, this needs to exist, like this element, which is, it's hard to say that about a joke for stand-up. Like, this joke needs to exist, but the underlying thought behind a bit of, I want you to think about why this thing is ironic. That idea, I do think, needs to exist. Or, like, if I draw a picture, like the last time I really felt like pushed to draw a picture that was a little bit more, not so much abstract, but it had its own narrative, was just this idea of, like, and it's the mascot logo for the show currently, of the Tin Man, like, pulling his clockwork heart out of his chest. And, like, I originally titled that Roll Back because one night I had an interaction with someone and I was like, my affection was not going to go anywhere with them. They said, like, we can be friends and this is as far as it'll ever go. And I'm very pleased that they outlined it like that, because it has allowed us to be great friends since, and it set very clear expectations. But at the time I was like, geez, why do I like people who won't like me back? And if I had a heart, what could I do with it? I mean, like, and I just got this picture of, like, you know, the Tin Man, he worked so hard to get that fucking heart put in. And and then the rude awakening of, like, well, I've got the heart put in. Oh shit, now I'm feeling things. This isn't so great. Like, how fast would, like, you know, from like a robotic standpoint, the person want to roll that back? And like, well, let's pull this part back out because this is painful. And you know, the idea of that idea came to me, and I was like, this, you're right. Like, when I started drawing it that night, I had some emotional turmoil, and I turn to art when I have emotional turmoil because it helps me. But realistically, it was that idea that this concept needs to be out there for whatever purpose. If it resonates with someone, they're like, oh yeah, I've felt that way before, or oh yeah, this means something to me. I'm not alone. Like, you know, like I think what a lot of creativity comes down to is this element of bonding.
Yeah. I think a lot of things happen where we go through something so painful in our lives, and then I think a creative person says to themselves, this can't be meaningless. This can't be for nothing. Something has to come of this. Something, I can't just get stabbed in the chest and then keep walking like nothing happened. And I know there's a lot of people who do that, who just are like, everything's fine, you know, and they just keep on trucking numbly through life. Creative people don't have that luxury. And I'm sure there's a lot of times where we wish we did, where you can turn it off and be like, heartbreak, psh, whatever. We have to get it out, because all of a sudden something is existing within us, and we have to find a way to express it, be it through art, you know, drawing. I mean, Tyson, goddammit, you are such an amazing illustrator. You are so talented. And I saw that comment. I like you too. I like you. You're lovely. But yeah, I think about when I went through the breakup that I went through, and I know I've talked about this before, where I just wanted somebody to love me, and I was desperate because I thought that, you know, there's going to be something wrong with me. If I'm not married by the time I'm 30, you know, I'm a mess. So I swan dived into the most fucked up relationship I've ever been in, doing everything I could to make it work with a guy who cheated and lied and did everything he could to make it wrong. And it all surmised, you know, my 30th birthday, I'm crying and I'm getting pulled out of a bush by by a friend. And you know Chelsea, you know,
Yeah.
she pulled me out of a bush and she dusted me off and she said, Jared, your dick is gonna get sucked tonight. And I was just like, I'm gonna get loved, you know. And I mean, it was just one of those things where I had to make it mean something, and that's when, you know, I turned to my guitar. And I think there are so many times when I've had to deal with some really difficult things in my life, and I know, you know, a lot of people turn to pen and paper. A lot of people turn to comedy. You know, a lot of people try to find their way through it. For some people, it's, you know, it's vodka, and that's all you need. And, you know, I think that's, honestly, that's just as valid as fucking comedy. Comedy destroys you, probably worse. I don't know.
It can.
I mean, yeah, I've seen it fuck up so many people. So, I mean, it really can screw with your mind. But I think about all the times in my life where I have said to myself, this can't mean nothing. You know, this has to be important. This has to result in something, because it's too much. You know, it puts too much inside of me for me not to just, I can't just let it lie. You know, I think about, God, it's 10 years ago. I was living with 3 other guys in this crazy townhouse in Denver. We met in Bay City, Michigan, and we were just fucking kids, you know. And we started a band. It was called Frockus, which, I mean, it's a silly name for a band, Frokus. But we were just these silly, fun-loving guys who thought that we could become these rock stars. And what I will say is that we probably could have. I have to admit, like, these guys were really talented. And I think somebody who really stood out was our guitarist, Joe. And he was just this guy who, can I tell you a story about Joe, my guitarist in my band?
Yeah, please do.
I lived with 3 straight men, which for a gay man, it's a lot. It's a lot to live with 3 other straight men. There's a lot of things concerning dishwashers and whatever else where you're just like, you gotta get your act together. But I never felt so much more embraced by other men before, because they were brothers to me. And I never really had like a true stable family. I had 3 examples of what like non-toxic masculinity looked like. These were good guys. These were amazing people. And I lived with them, and we made music together. 3 times a week we were in our basement just jamming out. And Joe was probably the strangest person I ever met. I remember he used to find bees outside, and he would like knock them out or like capture them somehow, and he'd put them in the freezer. And there would always be bees in our freezer because he wanted to tie a rope to them and then like walk them. And I guess you can like defrost them, and then you could just walk a bee. And he would do this. He would walk bees. He was the weirdest person, but he was the most amazing guitarist I've ever known. I think about how he studied under like jazz legends who just somehow found their way into Bay City, Michigan, and retired there. And he would teach these people things that he knew at 16 that they're still struggling with as adults. And I didn't realize how amazing, how much of a virtuoso this kid was. I had no idea. I would just write a song, give it to him, and he would Joeify it,
Joeify it.
He'd Joeify it. And I didn't know the whole time that we were in this band together how much he was struggling. He was very quiet about the issues with his family, and he wound up really struggling with addiction. And I remember I got really sick when I was in this band. I was walking with a cane, and I started having like mental issues because I was just really ill. And I won't get into the details of it, but I knew I was dying. I knew I was going to die. I fainted on stage, and I literally had my hand on the microphone, and I came to, and I was holding on to a mic stand, and I was thinking, what is going on? And I realized this is the instrumental. And then I just like swooped back up and I sang the final verse, and I was like, this isn't okay. Something is going wrong, So I didn't have a lot. I mean, early 20s being in a band, I sold everything I had, and I drove back to California to be with my family because I knew I was dying, and if that was going to happen, I had to be with them. And I didn't tell my band. I didn't know how to say anything. And when I was there, I remember driving in my car, and Joe called me, and he just said, man, I really miss you. I want you to know that I love you. And Joe is one of those guys who, when he loved you, he let you know, like he would like pick you a flower. He was just, when he said that, I knew he meant it. And I wasn't sure how. I thought I was going to be dead in a few months, and it's a miracle I'm still alive. Absolutely, I was very sick. That's the last thing I ever heard him say to me. And years went by, and we had like fights online. And I knew it was because he missed me. It was about like money, or something stupid. And I knew it wasn't about money. He missed me, and I missed him. We went through so much, You know, we had so many antics involving vans. There was a weird pimp with a loofah in his hair that gave me a coin and gave him a hug. Like, we have been through so many things as a band. And it was the day before I was going to come back to Denver to see him. Sam called me and he said, Jared, Joe's gone. I knew he struggled with addiction. You know, I knew that he had a lot going on, and I knew he tried everything he could to fix it. He joined the military. He did everything he could to make his life right. And I think there was just one night where he fucked up and he didn't realize what he was doing, and it was just too much for him. He had plans the next day. He was going to get married. He was engaged to this amazing girl, and he was young, you know? And the day before I get the call, I'm at the airport about to board my plane when I find out that Joe had passed away. And I'm in Denver, and I'm with my other guys, Sam and Cody. I love them to death. They're my brothers. And there's 3 of us at this table for 4. And I'm just sitting next to this fucking empty chair. And I just tell myself, this has to mean something. This has to do something. I can't be the same person anymore. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I mean,
I
you shouldn't
can't
ever apologize for showing your emotion.
I can't ever be the same. And I know the other guys, like, they grew up together their whole life. And this is the second fucking person who had died in that band. And like, Jordan, same thing. And he was such a great guy. And I mean, I was such a nerdy little gay kid. And I remember Jordan, people would give me shit. And Jordan was this huge dude, boxer, kick anyone's ass. And he'd always stand up for me. And we lost him, you know? It just can't mean nothing. And I mean, I wanted to hang up my coat when I left the band. I never wanted to sing again because it hurt so much. And I tried. But the second I sat in a room with Sam again, I knew it wasn't over. And I knew I have to do this. I sat in a room with Joe and I wrote a song with him about Jordan, about his addiction, not realizing that Joe was telling me about his addiction too. I have to do something with that. It's inside of me and it has to be out there for everyone because it can't mean nothing. People like Joe, I just wish everyone knew him. I wish that everyone could experience how much of a weird motherfucker he was and how great it was to just be around him.
Well, Jared, I'll definitely say this. My own experiences with loss, I've done it a couple of different ways. There are times when I take the pain and I bury it down and I don't talk about the person because I think it's too sad and too hurtful to like say anything about it. And in those instances, like, yeah, I'd have dreams about that person and like that's, you know, where I interacted with them, but those dreams would fade. And then there are other instances like people with my dad, like when my dad passed, like I went to therapy because I knew that I couldn't handle dealing with loss the way that I had in the past. And I needed to model for my daughter a different way. And that's when I started learning about talking about my dad and keeping like his memory alive and how much that made it easier. Because like I still have these moments where I will say something that is bittersweet and it will get me choked up, but that's all right. And I think that like when you talk about like bringing these memories of like, you know, it must be shared. That is how we keep those memories alive. And there is an importance to that that is so difficult to explain. It's I don't I, I can't say why it's important that the memories of these people who touch us in such profound ways, why it's important to keep the memory of them alive. Because like, I mean, sometimes I wonder, like, is the what meaning does life really have? Like,
Yeah.
like why are we here? Like in, like when we think about memories, and like, you know, they're carried by us, and then they're carried by the people we tell them to. But unless they keep on telling them to others, they like, how many generations does it take before we are all just like kind of lost to the ether? And like, I don't know what that really means. But I do think that there's like a resonance in creativity, a resonance in like thought, imagery, uh, what have you, that it adds to us, but also to the generations to come. Like they can glean something from it. And whether it is copied or reproduced or retread or what have you, it doesn't matter in the aspect of, I do think that you're right. It needs to be out there, because I think that there's like a collective, this sounds bizarre, but like there's a collective consciousness to like our existence that is improved.
You know, I think of Cher, of course, the Times made the movie Silkwood. There's a quote from that movie that's like, I'm gonna fuck up the quote, but it's basically, we're here to do things for other people. The lawyers take the rest. You know, they really do, which is maybe why I should have studied law. But I mean, I think that there are people in my life who have planted flowers in my soul, and there are people who have just tilled the soil, you know, broke the earth. And that's why I'm here, though, is for that. And all the other shit doesn't matter. None of that matters. And I'm here to plant some flowers. I don't want to till the soil, and I'm sure I have tons. And it sucks, you know. But I feel like I want to exemplify what Joe has done for so many people, where when he loved somebody, he let it be known, you know. And I don't want this life to just be a cash grab for me. I mean, I'm a successful person, don't get me wrong, but I know that's stupid, you know. It's about the connection.
I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. To that exact point. Like, there's a story you've heard me tell. Like, you heard me tell a really old rendition like years ago, when it was like the second or third telling of my softball story, and like other people have heard, you know, newer renditions or more complete or what have you. But like, for the audience that may have not heard it, like I'll get into it briefly, and the reason why is because I believe that sometimes when we speak through like giving advice or trying to resonate, that it seems valuable to me to instead try to share a story and let people glean from it what they will, instead of me just trying to distill what I think they need. So like, so I'll tell a brief version of it now. But like, when my father was passing, it was summer of, I believe, 2012. My mom called me, and she said, like, you know, we're going to take your dad to hospice tomorrow. I was like, okay. And she said, so if you have anything you need to talk to him about, you should come over and talk to him about that now. And I remember getting in the car and it's a 20-minute drive from where I lived at the time to their house. And, you know, it didn't even dawn on me at the moment. It was like, that was an odd way to be told of the severity of my father's cancer. Because like I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah.
And like, I knew that my time with him was limited, but I didn't know it was this limited. So I was driving over there and I'm trying to encapsulate like who this person was and all of these things in my mind. And like, I'm compartmentalizing all the different things that he was. But I was angry. I was angry because I wanted to have more time with my dad. Because when I was growing up, he would spend a lot of time not at home, down at the softball park, playing softball, out drinking with the boys. Like I didn't really meet my dad until I met him like at the bar. That's when I finally got to meet my dad. Like, and he was kind of the guy. I like to describe him as a cinder block of raw charisma. He's the kind of guy who could like fart in church and you'd like him more for it.
I already do. Yeah, I love that.
And like he was just that man. But he was also a man who he had never told me he loved me.
Mm-hmm.
There was one time when we were drinking together, and like I feel like I met him when he was at the bar. Like I met him on his own level. You said earlier in the night like how you lived in a home with 3 other straight men, and like it had its challenges, but you did have that sense of like the brotherly connection. Because there is something that can happen with men sometimes when we finally let the guard down and when we quit identifying other men as things to be competed with and things of like, this is a safe place.
Yes.
And you can let your guard down and you can have this camaraderie or this sense of brotherhood or this fraternal love that where like you can actually be vulnerable with them and you don't, and you feel this assurance that they're not going to exploit that. And it's very freeing. And it was like I finally had gotten to that point with my father. And like one night, we were drinking and we decided to race. And we like shotgunning beers and I beat him. And like he turned to me and said, "You're the greatest thing I've ever done." And like at the time, I was just like, "Oh, he just likes to drink." Listen, boy, does this guy like to drink? I didn't understand what it was he meant to me or what he was trying to say to me. And like so when I'm driving over there, I'm angry. I'm angry because my dad is dying of cancer, and the type of cancer that he is dying for is treatable. Had he just gone to the fucking doctor earlier.
Yeah.
But like, there's a certain, it's apropos in the aspect of like, he lived the life that he wanted to live. He drank when he wanted to drink. He ate when he wanted to drink, and he did what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it. But like when I walked into my parents' house, my mom's washing dishes in the kitchen, the lights on in the kitchen, and otherwise all the lights are off in the house. So I walk, she goes, he's resting in the back bedroom, and I walk down the hallway and I flip on the light to the hallway to see where I'm going, and I open the door to their bedroom, and the light from the hallway casts an angry silhouette into the room. Because I just stand there at the threshold of the room. I can't even enter the room because I am mad at my father because I feel like he owed me more.
Yeah.
Which that is an element of loss that is difficult for people, I think, to like to talk about, is like that sense of anger of like, this person fucking owes me more because I love them and I wasn't done.
Yeah.
Having my connection with them. And I'm there and I'm mad, and somehow I got in my mind that I needed him to apologize for going to all those softball games instead of being home on the weekends with me. And at one point, I'm stumbling over my words. I'm getting really verbose. I can't get the words out. And he just got up. He cast the covers aside, and he walks over to me in his threadbare underwear and this shirt that's oversized and it's draping off his body. But I recognize the shirt because it's one that used to be tight, because he was a big barrel of a man, and now he's not anymore. And he just came over and he like pulls me into this embrace, and he gives me this hug, and he kissed me on the lips, and he said, "Tyson, I love you. What more could there be?" That was the first and last time he had ever told me he loved me. This is the last time I saw him stand up. First and last time he had ever kissed me. And like that was meaningful to me. I'm glad that he told me that. But like it wasn't until years later when I was taking my own daughter to the first day of school, and I am standing there with my ex-wife, and I'm looking at my daughter and the person she's grown to be, and I see the people around her, like they're calling out to her and saying, "Hey, Parker, how's it going?" And like I get this thing in my mind where I want to reach out to my ex-wife, and I just like I don't know if I want to hold her hand or pull her into a hug, but I definitely want to like draw my ex-wife close and say, "She's the greatest thing we've ever done." And like when I said, like those words echoed in my mind, it was like I heard my dad's voice. "You're the greatest thing I ever done." And like, and it was when I began to realize like he had tried to tell me he loved me so many more times.
Yeah.
And I think like this idea of, to bring it back to what you were talking about and why I'm sharing this story like this, is that we all try to tell the people we love them, or maybe we don't. And if you don't, I pity you, right? Like if the people out there who maybe aren't like expressing how they actually really care about somebody, you should, because
Definitely.
you don't know when that time, when those opportunities won't be there anymore. But regardless of that, there are times when we are trying to tell people how much we care.
Yes.
But if we don't take the time to learn how they can hear it,
It's wasted.
it's yes, it can be wasted, or it can take years before they understand.
Yeah.
So like I do finally understand how much my dad loved me. But boy, would I have really liked to understand that sooner. You
Yeah.
know? And like I think that like when we feel this drive, like you know, driven through loss to like, you know, let people know who these people were, it's not just enough to be like, I was loved by this person, I loved them in return, but I also want you guys to know all the different channels in which that they would communicate love. Like I'm sure when you would turn words of music over to Joe and he would Joeify it,
Yeah.
there were elements of him communicating his love for like others in that behavior, in what he was doing, in what he was expressing, and what he was creating.
Definitely.
I mean, I think there's also this other undercurrent to a lot of the things that we, like you and I, kind of connect on this level, is like, you know, the trope of the tortured artist. Now, I personally do not believe an artist need be tortured in order to create.
No.
But
it helps.
yeah, I mean, it's hard to say that, right? I mean, like I don't ever want to be like, well, I'm gonna have to go experience some pain if I'm gonna write another fucking killer 3 minutes. But like
You know
at
what?
the same time, like
It gives you something to say. And I think that is one of the most terrifying things as a creative person, is feeling like I have nothing to say. And it's kind of hard to be quiet when you're struggling. You know, that's when you need to speak up. And that's when you start feeling things that are new. I mean, for you, when your father passed, there were so many things that you realized. And it really began to change who you are. I mean, I remember it was only like 4 or 5 times in that we've ever hung out, you told me you loved me. And I was like, how drunk is this motherfucker? But you meant it. And I really realized it. And you said, I have to let people know. When I love them, they have to know. And I think that's the thing. When you lost your dad, you realized you had to change. And it became this thing where you realized you can't ever step away from someone you love without letting you know, or without letting them know that that's how you feel. And it's so important. And I'm glad that you're in that space. Does it suck that it took you losing your dad to realize that's who you need to be? Yeah, that sucks. But I think about all the pain that I've been through in my life. And then I think about the Kardashians, you know, and I think about, there is a particular episode where some guy, I don't keep up with them. I just
all right,
put that on the record. I don't keep up with them.
Nor do I.
In passing somewhere, I was watching an episode where somebody, I don't know, some guy was talking to a Kardashian, and admitted to them that he's struggling with suicidal thoughts. And this, you know, picturesque Kardashian woman glowing with her halo light held in front of her and the cameras said, "Don't ever talk to me about this. I can't handle this. I can't hear this right now." And he literally just like looked down and walked away. And you know what? I'm so glad I'm not one of them. They have money, they're beautiful, but goddamn, they haven't been through anything. Anything. You know, they've lived these incredibly privileged lives, and it's all this pain and suffering who's made it. That's what has made me who I am, what all the things I'm proud of who I am. When I think about, man, I'm a resilient person, man, like I'm very creative, I'm very resourceful. That's from living in my car. That's from like all the shit I've been through in my life. Is I can't be knocked down. I'm successful because I've lost everything in my life multiple times. And all of my strength is from my failures. I think that's the thing that people get so angry when they're suffering, but they don't realize it's turning them into someone who's stronger than they've ever been before. That is why heartbreak is fabulous. You know, your heart breaks, but it mends with glitter. It glistens afterwards. And it's fabulous. It's fabulous, darling. Because it makes you a truer human being. It makes you who you are more than you've ever been before. And that you should be proud of. That you should be very proud of.
It's, you know, like the things that you just said, it's tangentially triggering like a couple of different things. Like there's someone I know who's watching this right now who I remember distinctly. We were having a conversation and I turned to her and I said, "You have no idea how much stronger and like how much, you know, like sexier and more powerful and like, you know, more of who you really are, you're going to be in just another year. But you're in the thick of it now. You don't know what you're gonna be, but you're gonna be it." And what is I can't pronounce it probably, but I had to look it up. It's a Japanese art of repairing broken pottery by mending the areas with lacquer dusted with gold or silver. Right?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
the kintsugi or something like that.
Something very good.
But the idea that like those breaks. They are beautiful. It is the thing that let's be honest, man. Like, I can tell you for fucking certain, if things would have gone for me the way that I thought that they were gonna go, I was gonna be like Lutheran little Tyson Purcell, who was virgin when he got married and had it all work out and like had the 2.5 kids and like the super successful, you know, where my empathy would be, it'd be in the fucking toilet. Because when everything just goes super good for you and goes as planned and God has his plan and everything's great, like you don't learn how to recognize when the shit hits the fan. Like it's those traumas that make me a better person. They made me learn more about what real empathy was and is.
I think it's hard for us living life. It's like trying to learn about water or trying to learn about the ocean while we're drowning, you know, or trying to swim. And it's really easy for us to forget, especially as creative people, that we are subject to the creative process as well. And there are a lot of ways that can refine us. I mean, there are good things that can refine us as well, but there are some people who only learn the hard way. I think that's you and me. And I am glad that you don't have the 2.5 kids. I don't know what's up with the third one. Does Billy not have limbs? What's going on there?
Well, yeah, I mean, like honestly, like you have that third spare just in case the other ones need like a liver transplant or something.
Yeah.
I think that's a joke no one should make. Anyways, continue.
No, I think we're being created still, always. You know, we are kind of this nebulous collection of thoughts and beliefs and actions and, you know, phobias and whatever else. And it slowly shifts as time goes on, you know, And we have to understand that we're being molded, and we have to learn how to appreciate and celebrate that. Pain is something that creates us, and we have to find a way to embrace it and understand that we don't have control over it. So we need to find a way to make it work for us. And I think that's what I'm trying to write songs about. I have one of my songs is called The Womb, and it's specifically about me driving through a desert. And there's this part where it's basically about me saying, God, I just want to stop evolving. I just want to rest. I just want to lie in who I am today and not have to worry about struggling past this next identity crisis. No more therapy, no more breakthroughs. Can I just sit in who I am? And in the bridge, I say, I keep paying this fee to Horizon Machines. And what do I see? And it's just this idea that I keep having to give to this machine that's bringing me someplace else. And it's like, why am I even doing this? What is this for? I say, it appears to me, to quote my highways, I'm a cloud slow fading gone, and it's this idea of, the world is telling me that I'm temporary. What does it matter if why do I have to go through these things if I'm just a breath, And then I say, it appears to me, to quote my bad days, like a silent movie screaming on. And it's this idea of like, is this going to be my legacy? Is just me screaming silently? No one's even listening. No one even cares. Am I just going to be this person on a stage with no one in the crowd? No one hears me. I think so many times about, have you ever seen Hedwig and the Angry Inch, that movie? Oh, it's so good.
I'm sorry, Jared. Like, there's
okay.
people. There are people who are getting disappointed with me just with me admitting that. I know there's at least Allie Lindsay. I know is going to be disappointed that I haven't watched that movie yet.
I hope she ties you down and throws you out a window. But regardless, she would. She would. Not for free, but she would. But anyway, I gotta say, there's something about that movie that I relate so much to, in that they're basically performing at like Red Lobsters, and nobody wants to hear them. But these are songs. Hedwig is writing these songs about her life that are so raw. Talks about a botched sex change operation at a Red Lobster, and it's just, and I mean, she fucking delivers. She rocks that fucking Red Lobster. But I have felt that way in my band, in Frockett's. I remember so many times where we got booked for a gig and there's nobody there. We got booked for a festival that got canceled on our way there. And we just wound up sleeping in our van, and it's just, I think so many times about how much work I put into being a performer and being a creative person, writing this music. I put so much of myself into this, and there's nobody there. And that's what that song Womb is about, is just like, I put so much work into bettering myself. I'm still single, and I see some fucking idiot losers get in relationships and they're happy. I think there was a guy who drove his truck onto my lawn because he was so drunk he couldn't find my driveway, and he's engaged now. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. Because I'm here and I have my shit together. And what do I have to show for it? I have a cat, and that's what it's about, is all this work in bettering ourselves. Why? What is it for? I'm not getting anything out of it. So I hope fucking somebody is, because I'm over here on my high tower, my sad little king of my sad little hill, and I'm selling that shit right now. Like that's my life, but
I will challenge you. I will challenge you, Jared. I'll challenge you. It's like I'm going through all this change. I'm always going through this change, and like, what's it? Who's it for? This has been weighing on me for a little bit, and it's going to take me a little bit to like muddle through the thing that I'm going to talk about. And I don't know any other way to do it. But I said earlier that I compartmentalize certain parts of my psyche, and that I really love Parker's dad. Right now, honestly, I'm struggling relating to my mom. We have some differences. They are relating to religion, and it seems like there's an impasse. But I also know that like at some point in her life, no, I can't say I know. I think my perception is that at some point in her life she went through the traumas that she went through, and she decided that her identity was going to be the greatest mom ever.
Mhm.
She was going to love her kids. Like, she went through loss. Her first husband died, and then and then she met my dad, and she had another kid. But like, she has her four children. She is the greatest mom that could ever be for these four kids. But we all grew up, and she still seems to me, and again, I can be wrong, and I'm sure she'll tell you how wrong I am, but from my point of view, it seems to me that she is still holding on with both hands, white knuckling it, with the idea of like, I am the great mom, but like, that's not what we need anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that life is change. I think that, like, from an artist standpoint, we like, I know when I work on graphic design or an illustration or something like that, that it is done when it is due. Like, otherwise, I can always go back in and finesse a little line or change a little color or add a shadow or take away a shadow or reduce, abstract, or make more like intensified. Like, the artwork is never done until it's due. Or like,
Yeah.
or for instance, like the artwork of like a stand-up act, it is due when I walk on stage, but that bit is never truly done because it will continue to evolve forever then after. And that my life, that there will be a day when Parker's dad, he will always be a part of me, but there will be a day when I will need to cultivate another part of me to love, because me leaning on loving Parker's dad as a way of loving myself, someday she's going to want to get to know who I am outside of just being her dad. And I need to be able to bring something to the table on that day. So I need to get ahead of it now and start thinking about what is the next iteration of Tyson? Like, what is the next thing that I'm going to bring to the table for her to love and for her to get to know? So like yes, there are definitely times where like I feel alone on stage and no one is hearing the things that I have to say, but like that change, somewhere along the line, someone's going to love me for it. And if they don't, God damn it, I hope I love myself for it at some point. But it does seem often like, I remember saying this as a joke when I worked in software development. And I was like, well, we learn from our problems. There's no mistake that has never been. Where you're like, you go through all the iterations in the difficulty, and then you get the success at the end. And I remember looking at my life and like, God damn it, I am tired of just suffering through problem after problem and learning all of the lessons. I would really like the success now. Could I please have just the good relationship and
Yeah.
a stable rent paid, and like, have my shit together for like just a fucking season would probably be nice. But like,
Yeah.
like that frustration of like, why am I unsettled? But at the same time, part of embracing change and being a flexible individual that is going to go through the next iteration also means embracing some elements of not being settled.
It's a
It's
hard
hard.
thing.
Yes.
We want to arrive. We want to get somewhere. It not our whole life is more of a desert drive than I think we give ourselves credit for.
Oh, God damn it. You're fucking, yes. Yeah.
And yeah,
Yes.
I think that's something I try my best to express in my art. It's interesting what you were saying, how like your work is only done once you hit that deadline. Mm-hmm. And I have heard the creative process compared to this. Sometimes you jump off a cliff and your wings grow on the way down.
Yeah.
And I think that's our life. I think it's not just about, meeting a deadline, which sometimes is just a jagged ground below us. I think our wings are growing as we're falling,
God, I love that
And
analogy. I love that analogy, and you're so right. Like, continue, but I have things to share.
no, but well, I have something else to say to you, sir, because I have had mimosas in front of your daughter. This is truth. And we have been to brunch, and I think you're a dummy if you don't know that your daughter knows who you are, because you let it slip. You are not good at hiding adult Tyson from her. And you know what? Parker is one of the, what did I ask you about before we started? I asked you about Parker because she's one of the coolest kids I have ever met. I would kick it with that girl any day. And this is the thing. Okay, I feel like I only say this when I'm stoned about people, but Parker can hang. Parker can totally just hang. She is so chill, easy to get along with, and she just knows how to exist with people. She really does. And she does that with you. I know for a fact Parker knows more about this secret Tyson you try to hide from her than you know.
Oh,
because
for sure.
Parker's no dummy. She probably knows a few of the women in the comedy scene that you slept with, and she knows that. She's probably found a condom wrapper and been like, "Go, dad." Because you're also a straight man, and I know you don't throw that out immediately. That's probably sitting in your bathroom trash for a couple days. What am I talking about? What? No, never.
Yeah, like that.
But anyway, I think that
a few days. You think it's just days?
But
Like,
I think that Parker's dad isn't an office that you walk into. I don't think it's a mask that you put on. I think it is who you are. And I think that it's so odd to me because I don't just see you as Parker's dad. And I know what you mean by being, I'm Parker's dad right now. But there isn't much of a difference, Tyson. There really isn't. And the things that you love about being Parker's dad persist outside of that office. It's always with you there. But what it is it's this image of ideal Tyson, but you're being that person. You really are that person. Do you ever feel like, oh my God, I just need to kick these shoes off. Like, it's killing me. I can't keep being Parker's dad right now. It's too much. Do you ever feel that way?
oh, never. Yeah.
Because that's who you are.
Well, yeah. And I
You just cuss less.
well, that's the goal, is to like meld these things back together. Like someday I might just be Tyson.
What's something you love about Tyson?
Oh,
What's something you're grateful for in your life that you can claim responsibility for?
That I can claim responsibility for, like I willfully took to heart the idea that Parker did not ask to be born. She did not ask to be brought into this existence, and that the responsibility of giving her the tools to thrive and understand what this is, as well as I can understand it, because I don't have a great understanding of what existence is either, but I'm working on it. And I want her to know as much of it as I can reveal to her, and let her also find her own way. So like, I am doing my very, very best to tell her what I think and what I feel and what I believe, and not so much what is, because she gets to decide what is for her. But like, I can just say, these are the things that I think and feel and believe, and like, you get to choose. Like, you have choice, you have free will. And I do think that I have done a very good job of that.
You have. Tyson, I don't say this to everybody. I say this to almost nobody, in fact. You are a really great father. I mean, you have to be proud of that. You know that. You have to. And, you know, something that I see in what you do, I think a lot of parents get it wrong in this. I think a lot of parents just want to love their baby, which is what your mom did. You know, you just want to love your baby. You're my baby. You're my baby. Goo, 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 goo. And they don't realize that being a parent means you are molding a capable adult. They leave your hands and go out into the real world. You have to make sure they're ready for it. And Parker is someone who isn't fully prepared,
Right.
but she's getting there. She's really on track. And that's you. Because, I mean, if I can be a bitch for a moment, I mean, would you say that religion has maybe put some rose glasses on your ex-wife?
Yeah, in some regards, but I mean, like, I would say that those rose glasses are more prevalent on others that I am related to. But yeah, sure.
So I think Parker sees that you haven't drank the Kool-Aid. And I think that's why she looks to you and sees you as kind of the sagely one in her world. I see that she looks to you for everything. And it's like, Dad, what should I do? You have those little wisdom nuggets too. Because for me, if I was raising a child, I'd be like, well, a nude wedge should never be glossy. Like, I don't know actually helpful things to tell a child, but you do. And you do it all the time. I see you do it.
Well, I think what it really came down to for me is that my mom has the rose-colored glasses about religion because, like, she can externalize her sense of love and forgiveness to this entity that will always, she just puts her hands together and voices her concerns, and then, oh, poof, it goes away. But, like, where does it really go? I think that she's burying some stuff, but, like, those are my thoughts. But what she had always done was she was always an authority about everything, even if she wasn't. If I asked her a question, she didn't want me to have the fear of uncertainty. So she would make up an answer and tell it to me. Where that didn't really work for some things. And, like, my mom did her best. I'm not here to throw her under the bus. But, like, I do realize where I depart from her in that statement, because there are times where I'll just turn apart and, like, I don't know. I really don't. But we're trying our best. And, like, she'll just be like, oh, okay. Like, oh, this guy, like, I think the times when I shine with her aren't when I give her the right answer. The times I shine with her is when she has a stumbling block and I sit down next to her and I say, hey, you want to know what? I got suspended from school for making torches in the boys' locker room, or I failed that class, or I didn't turn those things in on time, or I got sucked into a drawing and forgot to have dinner one day. And, like, when I share with her what my failures were, are where we seem to bond. We seem to bond way more on that than we do. We're like, oh, Dad really told me the right answer about this thing. It's always when I say, like, yeah, I had that problem too. It's okay.
You know what you're doing, which I love, is I think about when I was a kid, being a teenager, you always go through this phase of rebellion. Because what happens is this: when your parents are always, I'm right, I have the answers to everything, you start to idolize them. And you're like, oh, well, my mother, she's a superhero. She can do all, she knows all. But then the blinders come off. And you're like, she's not. They're not.
You're 100% right. Like, I mean, like, so much so, like, I thought my dad was evil and my mom was perfect because they would disagree and one of them had to be right.
Yeah. And you sided with your mother because she was better at whatever. But I think what you're doing is, I don't think Parker has anything to rebel against with you. So in her rebellion, she's kind of going to side with you because she knows that you're kind of a partner in crime. I mean, you're my partner in crime after all. So, I mean, I think you're setting her up for company in some of the most, like, painful, tumultuous, insane time that you could have in your life, which is the teenage years. You're setting her up for a companion, that can be somebody who just tells her, yeah, it's all bullshit and it's all crazy. And that's exactly what's going on. Like, nobody knows what's happening. Everyone's just trying their best, and existence is just a massive floating question mark, and that's really it. No one asked to be here, but some people will solicit you on the internet to pee on them, and that's just how it goes.
You know,
So,
and it's interesting that you bring that up, because I believe
no, what did you
it was
do?
just last week I said, Parker, you like, if you get Snapchat, you might get dick pics someday.
Oh.
And that is a man sending you a penis with that you didn't ask for. And like, it's just like, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The world is
So, but,
terrifying,
like,
honey.
but
Yeah,
this is a
awful.
thing. But like, it's just like, it's one of those things where it's just like when you say like we can sometimes put our parents on a pedestal. I can guarantee you that I did that with my mother.
Yeah.
Like she was up there on that pedestal for the longest time. And I can also say like that, the way that you put that, it resounds very much with me in the aspect of like, I don't want to be up there on that pedestal. When I think about my daughter walking on a path, I want to think of myself like walking next to her. And when she asks for a tool, that I say, I've got that tool. Here's how you use it. Or here's the tool, figure it out.
Yeah.
If you like, because like, I mean, I remember being taught how to bowl and having like, throw it straight, and like having like it micromanaged. And it's just like, this is terrible. Can't you just let me learn on my own?
Yeah.
But like, I do want to loop this all back to this element of like, you know, like the creative process of like jumping off the ledge and you're growing your wings on the way down. There are times like, and I guess I never really realized why that seems so natural to me. That element of like, oh, jump.
It's talent. That's what it is. It's not, the talent makes it so that we're not afraid to leap. We don't think about hitting ground because we never really do. So I think that makes us bold and kind of stupid. You know, the thing that sucks though is when we rely too much on that, and then we really start crashing into the ground, and then we get confused as to what's happening because we don't put the work in. I think that's a really hard thing. So,
I
but
think you're hitting the nail on the head right there. Like, because I know that there have been times specifically, like, again, like I know that I've talked to at least one person I know who's listening where I've said like, it's going to be all right. And like it
sounds flippant.
And like sometimes they'd ask like, how do you know? I'm like, and I'd have to ask myself like, is this faith? Is this faith that I'm having? Because like, I don't know that this is faith, but what it is this element of like the creative process and how I apply it to like, I look through a lens of creative process in my life about everything that I do. And like this element of jumping off the cliff and growing my wings on the way down. I do take that attitude towards life, and I am probably going to hit the ground at some point in time. Well, and I have.
Yeah.
I mean, for certain.
We reached the age where we all do. Sorry, my cat needs love right now. So
I understand.
She's part of it now. But yeah, I think when it comes to having that kind of, I think sometimes we become confronted with reality in a way that we never have before, be it realizing your parents aren't the heroes that you thought they were, realizing that men are going to send you pictures of their penis on the internet, realizing that some people aren't going to love you and some people are going to be dicks to you for no good reason, realizing that things that are unexpected are going to happen. You'll get sick, you'll get hurt, you'll lose something or someone's going to pass away. I think creativity is an amazing companion in all of this. You know, I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have a guitar, if I didn't have the ability to make light of it by telling jokes or whatever it is, because I need to get through it somehow, you know, and I think being creative helps me do it. I think there are plenty of ways to cope, which is just, you know, I don't know, you can drink, you can do drugs, you can be dicks to people. Like, I don't know, there's tons of things you can do. I'm just glad that I can strum it out, you know.
I believe that that resonates with me 100%. I can't tell you many times when like just the simple act of picking up a pencil and sitting down with a piece of paper. I think it's to find my calm in the storm. And sometimes that's what creativity does for me.
Yeah. It's a blessing and a curse.
It can be. Yes.
Yeah.
Very much.
But, you know, I'm glad that I have what I have, and I'm glad that I'm at a place right now where I can kind of confidently produce music I care about. I'm glad that I'm in a place right now where I can reconnect with the guys in my band. You know, we found a new guitarist who's learning the songs. I'm glad that I'm someplace where, you know, I have to practice gratitude, Tyson. It's how I learn to love myself, is gratitude. It's how I learn to realize who I really am, is saying, you know, these are the things I'm thankful for. These are the things that make me feel good. And understanding that these talents are something that I need to remind myself, I'm grateful for these talents. I'm grateful that when I was a teenager, I picked up a guitar and everyone's like, this kid's going to go somewhere. And then I never quite did. But I'm glad that I can at least understand chords and melodies and things like that enough to express myself through music. I'm so grateful that I had a voice teacher whose name was literally Merry Christmas. She was an old Russian woman who hit me with a rod whenever I screwed up. And still to this day, if I miss a note, I rub my shoulder because it's Pavlovian at this point, because she always whacked me in the shoulder. But I love her. I mean, like, I wouldn't have been able to sing if it wasn't for her. And I am so grateful for every whack to the shoulder, for every time my fingers have bled on my guitar strings. I am so grateful for all the horrible things that made me run to my guitar. Because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have the strength and character that I have today. And that is what I'm grateful for. And to say that I'm grateful for the things that hurt me, I think it's powerful. I wish I had the words for that. But I think for you and for we understand that we would be lesser people if we hadn't been hurt.
Yes, completely.
You know, so I feel like it's been over an hour and a half, Tyson.
It is. And this, like, honestly, this is where I wanted to end, was on that sentiment.
I want to plug my music one more time.
Please,
because that's why I came here. I'm sorry, everybody. everything's a ploy. You're just being sold to. I'm just a product. But no. So invotmusic.com, Invot Music, INVOT. Go to my website, watch me sing something poorly, kind of on purpose. And then my music is coming out very soon on Spotify. So look for that. Follow me on Facebook. It's Invot. Follow my band Frockus. We're going to be releasing some new stuff. FROKUS. We're also on Facebook. So yeah, I was waiting this whole podcast to say that. Now I'm done.
Well, I know that at the very least, the two people who watched all the way through the initial viewing, and there will be others that watch like later. I know that at least those two are going to go follow that stuff right now because I know who they are. And
I hope you do, because it's very heartfelt stuff. It came from a very, very deep place. And I got to start shit on fire in my garage while filming a music video. So
that's awesome.
I love arson. I'm an aspiring arsonist. I always say that. So, and
on that note, we're going to set some things on fire, and that one of those things is the end of this podcast or this live stream. But guys, we're going to have Jared on the show, I'm sure, many more times to come.
Please he's such have me whenever you'd like to have me.
Oh, he's such a lovely individual. I love him so much. All right, guys. Tune in next week for whatever the next live stream is going to be. We will always deliver some sort of heartfelt whatever. Anyways, that's the end of this broadcast, everybody. Thanks and good night.
Good night.